Okay, it is 7 o'clock, and I'll call this May 6, 2014 meeting of the Andalusia City Council to order, and I'll call on Councilman Sconyers to lead us in the prayer and pledge of allegiance.
Let us pray. Most gracious, kind Heavenly Father, we thank you for the gathering we have here tonight. We thank you for them and the blessings you bestowed upon us, Father, and we pray you forgive us of our trespasses and those who trespass against us. We thank you for your traveling grace as we travel to Mobile and back. Father, we pray, thank you for the success of that meeting. We actually look down upon us tonight that we make sound decisions concerning our community that will be best for us all. Father, we can continue to move forward. For in Christ's name we pray. Amen. Amen. Attention, salute, pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I want to welcome everyone with us tonight. We do have some guests. As we always state, we're always pleased and happy to have guests join us, and welcome others to come. We usually meet at 6 o'clock with a 5:30 workshop, but because we were out of town up until late this afternoon, we moved it till 7 o'clock this evening. Okay, members of the council, we got two sets of minutes to approve. The first one was for our regular meeting of April the 15th, and the second one was for our special meeting of April the 21st. Now, I think it would be in order to make a motion to approve both sets of minutes at one time, provided you want to do that. So it's up to you.
So moved.
All right, we have a motion by Mr. Powell to approve both sets of minutes. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, we have a second from Ms. Griffin. Any discussion? All in favor, please indicate by raising your right hand. And that is approved, and we thank you. No unfinished business. Under new business, tonight we will have the drawing for the Andy Bucks for the month of the sales that occurred in April, but we call it our May drawing even though it's for sales of April. Now, what's really interesting about this is this. This Andy Bucks drawing is worth $3,000 in Andy Bucks. Let me state that again. This drawing is worth $3,000 in Andy Bucks, meaning whose ever ticket we draw out here tonight, if they come and bring the matching ticket within 30 days, we'll get $3,000 in Andy Bucks to spend with the local merchants who participate in the Andy Buck project. So we'll call on our Andy Bucks lady to draw the winning ticket out. Okay, drum roll. We're going to get one of those and put it up here. Or we're going to get somebody to go brrrr like they do, the movie Christmas Vacation. All right, the winning Andy Bucks ticket for this month is 628655. I'll read that again. 628655. This will be up on our website. It'll be in the Andalusia Star News. It'll be in other places, but and we'll also have it here at City Hall if anyone wants to call and check the number. Again, if you received an Andy Bucks that was orange in this past month, you need to check your number and see if you got a match, because if you do, it's worth $3,000 in Andy bucks. Okay, our next item of business is to consider approval of our 2013 audit report for the fiscal year 2013. And to bring us that report is our auditor, Mr. Ken Odom. Ken, would you come and share your thoughts with us on the audit this year?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll try and be brief and loud. First, I want to thank the mayor and the council for the opportunity to stand here before you tonight on behalf of Rayburn, Odom, Pearson, Hayes, and thank you for the opportunity that you have granted unto us to be the auditors of the city of Andalusia. For this past year, we especially want to thank John Thompson, the city clerk, and his staff for the assistance and cooperation they gave us while we were conducting our audit. The audit document that you've been presented with tonight contains our report on the city of Andalusia's financial statements for the year ended September 30th, 2013. That report is an unqualified report. And what that means, professional standards limit the type of report that we can issue. And that's the best and highest report that we can issue on financial statements. So that is what the city of Andalusia has received. I'd like to make a few comments regarding your financial statements. At September 30th of 2013, the city had on deposit in various financial institutions almost $6 million, 5.9. Also at year end, you had what we refer to as capital assets, which are the streets, buildings, equipment, et cetera, that the city uses, of a net book value of almost $42 million. And that's the depreciated value based on historical cost and not as what those assets might be worth today. So if you were to use today's value, it'd probably be much more than that. During the fiscal year, you paid off approximately $2 million of your long-term debt. Also, in accordance with the terms of the agreement of the 2011 bond issue, the city transferred to the Andalusia City School Board $2.5 million that came from that bond issue, and this was an agreement as the bond issue was issued that part of that money would go to the city school. Unfortunately, due to some of the nuances of governmental accounting, the transfer of that money is charged against the equity of the city. Now what that means is it's treated as a transfer as a quasi-expense. And then as you receive the money back from the school board in the future, you'll record that in as a transfer back in. So ultimately, it will offset itself. It'll just take some time to get there. City, in one area, you received $500,000 less in capital grants in 2013 than you had received in 2012. Thus, that was $500,000 less in revenue in that particular area. But in spite of not having as much in capital grants, the revenue was still basically flat. It decreased 0.1% between 2012 and 2013. Had you received the same amount of capital grants that you had the prior year, you would have had an increase of over $500,000. The mayor has assured me he's going to apply for more grants this year. On the expense side, the expenses for 2013 increased 1.3%. 1.3% over 2012. And if my memory serves me correctly, Ralph, you correct me if I say this wrong, you and Terry, but I think we budgeted the same thing for 2014 that we did for 2013. And from what I've seen, we're on track with that budget for the current fiscal year. Also, and this is something I think the city can be very proud of, is during the past fiscal year, along with the assistance of donations from the community, you constructed Miracle Field that cost us in excess of $600,000. And I think that the council and the community here be commended for that. Also, you may not remember, but when I came and spoke to you last year, it was after a rather controversial meeting that the council had the meeting prior to my coming, when you adjusted the sales tax rate that the city would have. And I commended you for doing that at that time. We haven't seen the full effect of that because it's not been in effect for a full fiscal year yet. But I can tell you that based on what I've seen, collections are up approximately 75% this year over the past year. And if you took out the increase, it would basically be flat, indicating that we really haven't lost any sales because of the increase in the tax. The city continues to remain current with its required funding to the Alabama State Retirement System. That funding is something that you have control over. That's a calculated amount that the state, on an actuarial basis, calculates what your contribution would be as a percentage of the payroll, and you pay that obligation into the state retirement system. Once you've paid that, there's no additional obligation on your part. However, as you go forward, that rate could go up, could come down. A lot of that depends on how well Dr. Bronner does in the stock market. Based upon our report of the financial statements of the City of Andalusia, of which you have been presented a copy, the City of Andalusia continues to be fiscally sound in its obligations to its creditors and to the citizens of the city. At this time, I would entertain any questions that the council might have.
Anyone have any questions that they want to pose at this time? I'll point out to you that the purpose of the resolution tonight is to accept and approve the audit as presented by the auditor.
Mr. Mayor, you're getting ahead of me.
Okay, I'm sorry.
That's all right. If there are no questions, I would ask the mayor and the council to respectfully request that the audit report of the City of Andalusia be accepted by the City Council and such action be recorded into the minutes of this meeting.
All right, sir. After that recommendation of the auditor, I would recommend that we accept and approve the audit report. Now, that does not mean that you can have all kind of questions about the numbers that are in there, but what you're doing is basically saying you accept it as presented and put that in the minutes. But
And I'm available anytime.
Mr. Odom will be available to
talk to you
discuss
about
with you any question that might come up. So I recommend to you that we go ahead and approve the audit. We want to report that in the minutes. That needs to be recorded in the minutes.
I make a motion, Mayor, we go ahead and accept the audit as presented.
All right, we have a motion from Mr. Mount. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second from Mr. Wells. All right, any further discussion at this time on the resolution, which would be to approve the minute, accept the audit report and put that in the minutes? Any further discussion? All in favor indicate by raising your right hand. Any opposed, same sign, and I thank you for that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ken. We appreciate you coming and doing this for us. Okay, our next item of business is to consider a bid opening, a bid letting that not a letting, but a bid request that we had come in that having to do with planning and development department. I'm going to ask Mr. Wiggins if he'll come forth and go over that with you.
Yes, sir. At our last council meeting, I asked for basically permission to go out for bids for 2 new tractors to help us do our right-of-way cutting and maintenance and so forth with. And after doing that, we put together a list of specifications and sent them out to all the local merchants around town and anyone else, and advertised anyone else that had interest in bidding on those. And we got 3 bids back. We opened them this afternoon at 2:30, and they're as follows. Sun South LLC, and in the specifications, we asked for a straight purchase, a purchase with a trade-in, and also a lease. And if you look over to the bid amounts on the right, you'll see the straight purchase from Sun South Rental was $72,000. Purchase with trade would be $63,000, and a 60-month lease would be $1,325.97 a month. That's for a 60-month lease. Number 2 was First Choice Kubota. Straight purchase was $72,850. Purchase with trade, they did not bid, and on a lease, they did not bid. Cotton Tractor Company, a straight purchase for the 2 tractors was $64,000. Purchase with a trade was $53,000, and the lease is, if you'll see there, the lease without a trade was $1,039 a month, and with trade it was $812 a month, and that's based on a 48-month lease. Also, one of the things I didn't write down, and at the end of the 48 months, you could buy both of the tractors for $24,000 or trade them back in on that. So number 3, the Cotton Tractor, they met all of the specifications, and if you so choose, that would be the one that I would recommend. And whichever way.
The lease on Cotton was a 48-month lease.
Yes, sir.
As opposed to a 60-month Sunbelt.
Right.
Sun South. And the purchase of it would be
The purchase of it would be $53,000 from Cotton Tractor.
No, I'm talking about at the end of the lease.
No, the end would be $24,000.
$24,000.
Yeah, it was $24,000 and a few dollars.
Or just terminate the lease and start
Or trade them back in.
whatever you want to do.
Yeah, and those have a limited amount of hours that, like as on any lease program, that we can use. And if we do go over the hours allotted per the lease, we would have to pay extra. One of the things that, I think for you to consider would us to be, if you would approve these, would be do a 60-month regular financing through, a local bank or something like that. The tractors have a 3-year, I call it bumper-to-bumper warranty on them. So, 5-year lifespan. If we do put them on a rotation, on a cycle, that at the end of 5 years, we would be able to turn around and, or sell them or trade them in and get a really good return on our money. But it's up, whatever you guys want to do. Yes, ma'am.
Ken, Andy, you did say we didn't want to keep them. We did want to trade them in if we could get any trade.
Well, yeah, the 2 that we would like to trade in, they're actually going to cost us about $12,000 to have them brought back to condition that they need to be in to be on the road and working. So yes, ma'am, I would recommend that we trade those 2 in, and Cotton Tractor allowed us $11,000 trade in on those 2 tractors, which I'm not a tractor person, but that's about what Sun South was offering us as well. So I think it's.
Are you saying that the lease at $1,039, and I noticed that with trade is $812. Without it, it's at $1,039.
Yes, sir.
Is it feasible or logical to say that you would keep them without the trade? Would there be any worth to
No,
that?
sir.
That's
I
what
would
he's saying.
recommend that we surplus them and sell them if I'm allowed to purchase these 2. They are, like I said, there's about $12,000 worth of repairs on those.
Okay.
As I told you guys in the workshop, I mean, we keep those things maintenance really well. Every day they bring them in, they clean them up, they grease them and so forth, but it's metal on metal. A lot of the PTOs and those type things are just worn out, and those are some of the things that need to be replaced on these tractors. And they're very costly, along with air conditioning and the roofs are need replacing, and a lot of repairs on these 2.
As I understand it, you're recommending that we accept the Cotton Tractor
Yes, sir.
bid with a lease with trade. Is that what you're saying?
Either a lease with trade or give the clerk permission to do a local financing of the $53,000.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right, the recommendation is that we check with local lenders and see what we could finance the $53,000 for, which would be with the trade-in of these 2 tractors
Would be
we would own the
$53,000.
tractors at
Right.
that point. And compare that with the lease with trade, which would be $812.
Right.
But in any event, we would also need to declare these 2 tractors surplus
Correct.
so that we could trade them in or sell them, one or the other.
Or
One
have them
more point,
fixed.
the life, the life you intend for the tractors to be is 3 or 5?
I believe that we can get 5 years out of them without, and then be able to turn them over and get a really good return on our money. Because we're buying them at basically state bid price, which is a reduced price to begin with. And, you know, within 5 years, they should not have as many miles on them or hours on them that wouldn't bring us a good return to rotate them over. The only thing that scares me about the lease, and it doesn't scare me, we'll have to go back and renegotiate with the low bid, is the 600 hours a year, which is a lot of hours, but we also do a lot of, I mean, you know, a lot of time in the tractor, so.
Is that a per hour charge?
Yes, sir, they would be a per hour charge, and it was not in the bid as what that would be. That would be something that we'd have to deal directly with the leasing company about.
The length of the lease?
The length of the lease is 48 months.
I mean, that would be the charge every time you went over the.
Yes, sir,
specified-
every hour you go over would be additional charge, just about, almost as the same, exact same thing as purchasing or leasing a vehicle.
All right.
There's about roughly $200 difference between the lease price without a trade versus the lease price with a trade.
Yes,
Am
sir,
I
that's-
assuming it right that $200 over 48 months is equal to $9,600 that they're giving us for the tractors if we trade with the lease?
Close to that, yeah.
2,400 a year times 4.
So really,
that's
we're looking at
9,600.
9,000 versus 11,000.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And, you know, on a 60-month, I didn't do the amortization, but on a 60-month lease, it'll be between, I mean, a 60-month note, it would be between the $800 and the $1,000 payment right in there. With what that would be, actually would probably be a little less than that, or right around that, around $1,000 a month.
So what are you asking the council to do?
I would ask that we purchase with the trade and give the clerk permission to go to our local banks and look at a 5-year note for the $53,000.
So you're recommending that we buy rather than
Yes,
lease?
sir,
Is
I'm
that what you're
recommending that we
saying?
buy.
Okay.
And, yeah, we're on TV, so.
So this 53,000 represents 2 tractors, right?
Yes, sir.
And this is not exact because I don't have amortization program on my cell phone. But if you just paid 5% interest at the local bank on the total amount of $53,000, and you financed it for 5 years, you would have paid $56,180, and you would own them.
Right.
Versus if you leased it from them for $812.02 a month, and then paid the $24,000 at the end of the 4 months, you would have paid $63,000. So you'll save $7,000 to pay 5% interest at the local bank over 5 years.
And I don't.
It really would be less than that because I charge the 5% for the entire 5 years.
5 years, yes.
You know, on the 53,000, and it declines, so
Right.
it'll be less than that. So I would make a motion that we let him work a deal with a local bank so that the total deal doesn't exceed $60,000 over 5 years.
Okay? Is that, everybody good with that?
I'll second.
And authorize, declare the 2 other tractors
Surplus.
so we can get our money back out of that, apply it. Okay. All right, we have a motion, do we have a second?
I second.
All right, any further discussion? All in favor, please indicate by raising your right hand. Any opposed? And that carries. Thank you for that. Thanks.
And a question, the monthly amount, can your budget handle that for the remainder of this year and then budget it for the rest of the time so we don't have to use any contingency? You can squeeze that.
We're just gonna have to spend $12,000 just to get the others. So, if you figure how much that is a month for You're gonna spend that much pretty quick.
Right. Okay.
Okay, we need to consider item D here. Oh, I'm sorry, did we vote? Yes, we did, didn't we?
We did.
We did, yeah.
Okay, I thought we did.
Okay, next item is 2014-05, which is the resolution authorizing outside agency funding. And as I understand it, this is for 2 quarters, is that correct? And the amount is $135,000, is that correct? Okay.
Mr. Mayor, I make the motion that we adopt resolution number 2014-05 concerning outside agency funding.
Okay.
In the amount of $135,000. This will be for the period of 2 quarters.
All right, we have a motion, do we have a second? Comes from contingency.
From contingency, okay.
Have a second?
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, please indicate by raising your right hand. Any opposed, same sign. And that carries. Our next item of business is to consider a request from our police department for some equipment that needs to be replaced. Sergeant Hayden is here to walk us through that. Sergeant Hayden, if you will.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, City Council, for giving me an opportunity to speak with you tonight. As you know, technology goes on and gets bigger and brighter, and it's hit us at the police department. To meet the FBI and CJIS security standards, and what the FBI and CJIS security standards are to meet the security of the networks that attack and change and exchange data with the state and the federal government. You have to meet a certain security requirement with your operating systems, with your security in your network. Right now, we've managed to upgrade our entire department to Windows 7 at a minimum, and that's what they require from us. We're using a fingerprint machine that the last time it was serviced was 2008, originally purchased in 2004, and we replaced the software and the computer in 2008, but it's running XP. So we can't do anything about that. It won't support Windows 7. Very little of the equipment that's attached to it will also not support Windows 7. We also have a problem, as you know, it's really important that we record our telephone conversations, all the calls that come in, all the calls that go out, not only for security but for liability purposes, you know, for the city. Also, the radio communication the officers make over the air and the dispatch calls have to be recorded. It's all evidence to be used in court, and our system there also is very old. The company advised us that the last time we got hit by lightning, you know, we had to have some repairs made, and they advised us they can't upgrade it anymore and they won't support it. And that's the same problem with the fingerprint machine. What I did was put together a little estimate. It kind of gives a little brief description of, you know, the software and everything. Basically, we've able to narrow it down to some minimums. On our fingerprint machine, we can reuse a lot of the components, the keyboard, the mouse, the fingerprint scanner itself is questionable, but we believe we can reuse it. This company that we've done business with for, 10 or 12 years now, they do not support Windows 7. And they have subcontracted with a company called DataWorks out of Georgia, who is writing the software for everybody in the state. And they've given us this estimate, and what they're willing to provide us with is the computer and everything that goes with it. All the cards, the software, the training. They're going to come in and train us. They're going to do everything, come in and connect it, get us back in business so we can securely submit our prints to the state and to the FBI like we're required. Right now, we're able to submit those prints. We don't know when they're going to cut us off because the deadline was April 1st. We've tried everything we could do to do it ourselves because we're kind of self-reliant. We like to make do with what we got and you know, stretch it out, but in this case, we can't. The recording system is not required by any law for us to upgrade it, but it is a standalone little PC about this big. And we're talking since 2006 is when this one was installed. And it's just outdated. There's no way we can fix it anymore. And it won't hold any more data. It's almost full. I'm moving calls and things off of it now to keep it from filling up, and it's just a constant battle. And this company is the same company that we've done business with this entire time, and to upgrade that system, they're suggesting we go to a rack server. If you've ever been in Miss Ammon's office, or you've been in our, I don't know if any of you have been in our network room, but everything's a rack server now. And it holds many hard drives, lots of data storage, and that's what they recommend we go to. But the rack servers are expensive. And what I've come to the council for tonight is to ask that, I can run through these numbers for you if you'd like real quick. Would you like me to do that?
Sure.
To narrow it down. The fingerprint system alone, they're saying $5,000. The link to send those prints up to our database in the AFIX machine, which is upstairs, that's $2,500. They have to convert the files, and the machine will do this forever after we pay this one-time fee. They do the software and the card installations and all the networking that's necessary to make this happen.
That's what you're calling that NIST record export?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
If some of you are probably not familiar with the AFIX system, that's a system we bought with a grant years ago that was in the 20s of thousands of dollars. And what it does is when you pull those prints up, if we have a crime and we take fingerprints at the scene, I can run them, and the machine can actually find matches. And if they match up, it'll tell you this guy's so much percent that he's guilty or he's not, you know. So it helps us identify suspects, and sometimes it actually gives us the person that did the crime. So it's something that we can't turn back on, since we've already invested $20-something thousand in it, whether it was grant money or not, you know. So, or that computer is going to sit up there and just disappear. The recording system, the original all around would be the rack server, all the wiring necessary to run from the server room, which right now the system is wired to one of the consoles in dispatch. And we just ran into that problem again. Lightning hit our console, knocked some of the cards out in it, and lo and behold, we didn't know, we weren't recording our radio traffic for over a week. And some important things happened during that week, and there's no way we can go back and listen. So what they're going to do is we're going to run it to our main radio in the back, our main receiver. They're going to provide all the wiring, the labor. They're going to replace all the phone cabling that's necessary to record the telephone calls and make those connections. And that telephone room is on the other side of the building, so there's quite a bit of wire and labor involved there. But the price on it was $91.66, and that involved $1,000 labor and I talked them into a trade-in. I said, look, you're getting our old equipment, you got to help us out. So they're going to give us $2,657 trade-in on the old little recording tower computer. And we'll get all new equipment, monitor, keyboard, mouse, and the rack server, and everything installed with training. What I'm asking the council for is support around at a flat $20,000, and that would cover any extra incidentals. What I'm worried about is the fingerprint scanner not being able to work with the new software. We don't know until they hook it up. We're trying to save, you know, some money there. The fingerprint transmission stuff, we don't know if we may have to purchase another small program there, which could be $1,500. We just don't know until we get that far into it. But we're going to try to utilize everything we can without spending anything we don't need to. And I'll take it as far as I can to make it right, you know. But I think that round figure is more than enough, and I'm looking to give back at least $4,500 to $5,000 of that to you. So.
Okay. Now, all this that you're talking about, do we have to bid that, or is this specialized equipment that you?
Well, I think it would fall under the emergency clause, because if we don't record our calls and our traffic, it not only could be a life-saving thing, it could be a huge liability.
And the deadline's already passed?
Yes, sir. The deadline passed April 1st. And I'm not sure on the other if we would have to bid that out. It's the same company we're utilizing, but they've subcontracted with another one, and we're already paying a maintenance fee to that company for continued coverage, of which they can't provide. Okay. So they're going to pick that up and give us credit for that too. So.
That
Okay,
make
well,
it about 15,000.
we'll find, and we'll have to determine that before we do it, but
Yes, sir.
probably was a way to do it without bidding. Not that I have a problem with bidding, it's just you need the equipment
Yes, sir.
and services.
If I could have made it happen without coming to you guys, I sure would have.
So you're asking us for $20,000 max, and you hope to bring some of that back, is that
Yes, sir.
what you're telling me?
That's the plan.
All right,
That's the outside agent.
Well, I think everybody's aware that Windows XP is no longer supported and is playing havoc with us in the manufacturing business.
Oh, yeah.
So I can only imagine what it does to the police department. So I think it's something that we have to do, whether we have to bid it or not. So I would make a motion that we allow the police department to spend up to $20,000 without having to come back to us to upgrade this equipment.
okay, and that also
And
would
to be
go-
determined if it has to be bid or not.
Yeah, and money would have to come out of contingency because it's not
Yes.
in the budget.
That's
All right?
I second that.
And we have a second. All right, any further discussion? All those in favor, please indicate by raising your right hand. Any opposed? Good job, Sergeant Hayden, you got what you asked for.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Next item is not an action item, but it's just something to comment upon and to congratulate our people on the new ISO rating that we received this week. I guess we found out about Friday. Our rating has been improved from a 5 to a 4. ISO, you go backwards. The smaller the number, the better. The ratings go from 1 to 10. And so we were a 5. We dropped that to 4, which is an improvement, significant improvement. And I want to congratulate, of course, our fire department, chief, and your folks for doing all the things that the fire department has to do to ensure that rating. But I also want to congratulate and thank the Andalusia Utility Board and the Andalusia City Council for the infrastructure improvements that we have made on our system in the last couple of years, 2 or 3 years, including the new well that was drilled north of town a couple of years ago, started that process and upgraded the water service to our industrial park and all that part of town. And all that played a big part in getting this ISO rating improvement, because water service and water delivery service is a huge part of underlying part of the ISO rating. So thanks to everybody involved for standing tall and getting the job done, because what this will translate to is a lower insurance premium for every property owner who has fire insurance in Andalusia, Alabama, including homes and businesses. And one of the things that we're asked about every time we're out recruiting industry, you get down to some of the bottom line things. They want to know, what is your ISO rating? And the lower that number, the better your rating, the more they like it, because they know that that's going to impact their bottom line and what they have to pay for their fire insurance. And so it's a big deal, and I know that the Andalusia Star News has already written one real nice front page article on it, and maybe we'll get another one out of it. Right? Okay.
When their insurance goes down.
When their insurance goes down, okay. All right, we have a house relocation request, and also we'll ask Mr. Wiggins to come forward on that. We also have an abatement issue to deal with while he's here. We'll just take them one at a time and do the house relocation request first.
Yes, if y'all will remember, we put in place our new ordinance a few years back on the house moving regulations and so forth. And if you look through your packet, you will see that all the things that are in the ordinance that are required have been fulfilled by the owners. And the owners of this is the Happy Homes LLC, which is Ms. Brown. She's here if y'all have any questions when I get finished. She's willing to answer anything that y'all may have. I will start out by saying that Happy Homes LLC, they do own a lot of real estate around Andalusia, and they do a really good job of keeping all their real estate up to standards and so forth. We have very rarely ever have any complaints or problems from their real estate that they keep rented out to the citizens of Andalusia. If you will look, basically the house is, there's a map located in your packet of a route which is required. The house is going to be moved from the Valley of Shiloh to Woodruff Street, basically the corner of Woodruff there on the lot that they already own. If you'll look in the, also there's a list that Ms. Brown has, or a letter Ms. Brown has supplied us with the things that are required to be done to the home. One of the things about the home is it's less than 18 months old, if I got that right. It's less than 2 years old anyway, right around it. So it's a brand new home. It has hardy board siding. You can look at the pictures in the packet. And so it will be underpinned with block, and the porches and stuff will be reassembled on there. They do have all their bonds in place, both not only the mover, but Happy Home LLC has their bond in place in case something comes about that they're not able to finish the project. Then the city is named on the bond to where we can go in and finish the project or have the structure removed. So they have, like I said, they have complied with all of the ordinance, and my recommendation to you guys would be that you approve this house to be moved into that neighborhood. It's actually, can't remember which district it's in. I think it's in Miss Hazel's district, District 3. And the type of the house and then the neighborhood is very conducive to the neighborhood. It's a little smaller home, but it's a well-built, really attractive home.
This a regular wood structured home?
Yes, sir. It's a regular built, stick-built structure. Yes, sir.
Wait till the mover she's got.
Okay,
The mover she's got is here. Yeah, I see it right here.
yeah, this, Mr. Wiggins reminded us of the, we adopted an ordinance early in the last administration having to do with moving homes into Andalusia. And the requirements are pretty stringent. So if someone's willing to take on those requirements, and we've had a couple that have done that and turned out to be real nice additions to our city where they have moved the house and made the improvements to a neighborhood. So it looks to me like this is in compliance with all of our requirements, and you see a picture of the home. Looks like a nice house to me. I recommend to you that we approve the request.
I make a motion, Mayor, we approve this request.
All right, we have a motion by Mr. Mount. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Powell. Mr. Powell? All right, any further discussion or any questions for Ms. Brown? Did anyone want to ask any?
What kind of distance is this, mileage wise, from one location to the other? How far does the house have to travel?
It's about 10 miles.
10 miles, probably.
Valley of Shiloh and all.
Yeah, okay.
About 10 miles.
That's it.
Mr. Odom is the house mover, Marty Odom. He does a great job, and he's already been in contact with all the utility and everybody. The police department had everything signed off on. And the house is narrow enough and low enough that he's not gonna have any problems. It's not gonna create any issues as far as utilities. And we may have to move a stop sign or two. Mr. Rawls is aware of that. So, I mean, it should be a really, really easy transition to get the house into place. And
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Any further discussion or questions? All in favor of approving this request, please indicate by raising your right hand. Any opposed, same sign, and I think that's unanimous, and I thank you for that. Okay, also we have an abatement resolution to consider, and while you're up here, Mr. Wiggins, if you will, proceed with that.
Well, if y'all notice Richard Moore sitting in the back there, Richard has become, in the recently when we lost our building inspector. Richard was our maintenance supervisor, and he was promoted to building inspector. And he's kind of getting his feet wet, along with Mr. Peacock, that has been named the code and compliance officer. And both of them are getting indoctrinated really well, because guess what? It's that time of year again. Everything's starting to grow. If it's not grass, it's weeds. And so if you'll see on the resolution, there's 6 pieces of property, and 5 of them are right there together on Avalon Street. And you can look at the pictures, and pictures are worth 1,000 words. And I can go ahead and tell you, y'all might as well get ready, because there's another stack of these sitting on my desk that will be here at the next council meeting if people do not comply. So Richard is kind of supervising Mr. Peacock right now, and they're both doing an outstanding job on getting these things done. The other one is the 13,200 Brooklyn Road, which we have a problem with every year. You'll see it again before the year's out. But I would recommend that you declare each of these a nuisance, and we start the abatement process.
Make that motion.
All right, we have a motion to that effect from Ms. Griffin. Do we have a second?
Second.
A second from Mr. Powell. Or any further discussion? All in favor of adopting the resolution as presented, please indicate by raising your right hand. And that too is unanimous.
Thank you.
Andy, before you leave, don't we have at our disposal now a new weed statute or new weed? Do we need to amend our ordinance to come into compliance? Makes it easier for us to deal with weed and grass abatements?
I've not read. I've tried to research a new one. I've not found it yet.
I know one was pending in the legislature and was supposed to go.
Did it pass?
It passed, but it only applied to certain class cities. We asked them to put us in there. We need to find out
Okay,
the
I'll
status of
research that in the morning and find out for sure.
It streamlines significantly what we have to do with weeds and grass
That would
abatement.
be marvelous.
Yep.
It would. But I'll research that and let you guys know on
Okay.
that. And if it does, we will implement that. I guess we'll have to bring it and have it adopted by the council. I'm not sure.
We'll have to look and see. I don't know if we have to change our ordinance or not, but we'll do whatever we need to do because it does.
I'll get with Mark and we'll get it worked out.
Okay, all right, thank you. All right, is there any other business to come before the council? I want to report that we have one opening on the Recreation Committee. Anyone interested in serving on the Recreation Committee, please let us know. That committee has sort of been not real active recently. We're going to get that started back up again, and we need to replace some of the members on it, or put some folks in some openings on it. So if anyone has an interest in serving on the Recreation Board, please call and let us know, and we will get you signed up for that. Anything else? All right, we will stand adjourned.